Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualize channel. They will continue our lab, the Red Arrow lab. This is the video number 47. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We are continue working with securing our Windows Server 2019 environment based on the recommendation of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. This is the video number 17, and I hope this will be the last video for talking about the topic of securing Windows Server 2019. The next topic, with God will be securing Microsoft Edge, and then after that will be securing Office 2019 or 16 or Office 365, and then we will close the issue of not close the issue of securing your environment as a whole and different products, but we will also talk about securing Adobe Reader. After that we will stop talking about securing your environment based on the recommendations of the STIG, okay, or the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. We will talk about different issues, but after that we will talk about other topics. Anyway, so this is the video number 17. We will continue working, and we will begin from the last time we have stopped at this recommendation. Windows Server 2019 must be configured to use FIPS compliant algorithm for encryption, hashing, and signing. We know encryption is to encrypt the data. Hashing is to put a mechanism on the data sent between the servers and the workstations, or between the servers and the domain controller. The hash is a technique to protect the data from being tampered with, to know if anyone tried to manipulate the data or change the data. The hashing, it is a way to know that, okay? And signing also, it is a way to verify the user sending the data or the machine sending the data. So signing, it is something like putting a unique shape or a unique thing to differentiate the data. For example, like putting a stamp, okay? The stamp, it is something to differentiate or to know where the letter is going to, or to verify that you are sending from a specific country. So signing, it is a way to prove your identity, okay? So hashing and signing and encryption, all of the three techniques help to protect our data. Encryption protect the data from being read, okay? Hashing prevent the data from being manipulated with. Signing help data to verify the data or the sender of the data, okay? So here is saying that we need to work with FIPS algorithm, okay? So it's saying that this setting ensure the system use algorithms that are FIPS compliant for encryption, hashing, and signing. FIPS compliant algorithm meets specific standards established by the US government and must be the algorithm used for all OS encryption functions. So, for example, if you are using a BitLocker, you should use the FIPS algorithm to encrypt the data. So let's have a look about what is the FIPS algorithm. So here we can tell him FIPS algorithm. So what is FIPS algorithm? Covers symmetric and asymmetric encryption techniques, as well as use of hash standards and message authentication. If a cryptic model does not use algorithm for anyway, so this is one of the why we should not enable FIPS encryption on. So this is one of the things why he's saying here, why should not enable FIPS encryption algorithm on Windows. Windows has a hidden setting that enable only government certified encryption. This may sound like a way to boost your PC security, but it isn't. You should not enable the setting unless you work in a government or need to test how software will behave on government PCs. This tweak fits right along other useless Windows tweaking methods. If you stumbled across this setting in Windows or you seen it mentioned elsewhere, do not enable it. If you already have enabled it without a good reason, use the step to disable FIPS. Here is saying that this is used by the government. Okay, certain specific methods can be used as well as methods. Anyway, this setting in Windows complies with the US government FIPS 140 standards. Okay, this forces does not make Windows more secure, it just blocks access to newer cryptic schemes that haven't been FIPS validated. This means it would not be able to use new encryption schemes or faster ways of using the same encryption theme. In other words, it makes your computer slower, less functional, and arguably less secure. How Windows behave differently if you enable this setting. This is one of the things also Microsoft explained that actually does in a blog why we are not recommending FIPS mode anymore. Microsoft only recommends use if you have two. For example, if you are using US government computer, this computer is supposed to have FIPS enabled according to the government own regulations. There is no real case where you would want to enable this on your own personal computer unless you are testing how your software behaves in US government computers with this setting enabled. Okay, so he's saying this setting does two things to Windows itself. It forces Windows and Windows services to use FIPS cryptic. Would not use older, it will require TLS1 instead. So for example, the S channel built into Windows would not work with older versions. It will require at least. NetFrame will also block access to algorithms that aren't FIPS. The NetFrame offers several algorithms anyway, and not all of them are submitted for validation. An example, Microsoft notes that there are 3 different versions of hash algorithm in the NetFrame. The fastest one hasn't been submitted for validation but should be secure. So enabling FIPS mode will either break .NET applications that use the more efficient algorithm or force them to use the less efficient algorithm. So there is problems to enable this kind of mode, but it's recommended only to use it with US government PCs. You should not enable this setting unless you are using government computer and are forced to. If you do not enable the setting, some consumer application may actually ask you to disable FIPS mode so they can function properly. So there is some problems with working with this kind of mode. So this is the thing, and let's see what he's saying about using of algorithm. This is something. So FIPS, it is something, or this this abbreviation refers to federal. I think something. Let's see. It's something to. It's called Federal Information. I think protection system, or it's Federal Information Processing Standard. Okay, so this is related to the Federal Information of the United States. Okay, so I think this has some problems, so it's good to know that we should not use it. Okay, so use it unless it is a US government computer. Okay, so he's saying that designed for certifying cryptic software, Windows implement these certificates algorithms to meet the requirement standards for cryptic models used by the departments and the agencies of the United States. This policy determines whether TLS and SSL security provider supports only the FIPS compliant stronger, cheaper suit as so and so, which means that the provider only supports the TLS protocol as a client computer and as a server. If applicable, it uses only the triple standard encryption algorithm for TLS traffic encryption. Anyway, so he is using some best or some setting to enable different encryptions for different encryption algorithm. We recommend that customer hoping to comply with FIPS research the configuration setting of the application and protocols that may be using to ensure their solutions can be configured to utilize FIPS 142 validated cryptic provided by Windows when it operates in. For a complete list of recommended configuration settings, see Windows Security Baseline for more info about so and so. So we should not use this kind of algorithm unless it is a US government PC, because it will have many effects with different programs, so you need to test it very carefully. Okay, so let's see here also saying that clients with this setting enabled will not be able to communicate via digitally encrypted or signed protocols with servers that do not support these algorithms. So both the server and the web browser, or the web server, must be configured to use TLS, otherwise the browser will not be able to connect to a secure site. So there is some problems, okay, also with browsing some websites that does not use the algorithm of FIPS, okay. Anyway, so this only should be done to the this algorithm only should be used in the operating systems of the computers of the United States, okay, because FIPS abbreviation is Federal Information Standard Information Processing Standard, okay. Then we go to the other recommendation. Default permissions of global system objects must be strengthened. Windows system maintain a global list of shared system resources such as DOS, device names, mutex, and semaphores. Each type of this object created with default DACL that specifies who can access the object with what permissions. When this policy is enabled, the default DSL is stronger, allowing non-administrative users to read shared object but do not modify shared object they did not create. So I think it's related to objects in the active I think objects in the Windows system, okay. So the Windows components, or the Windows folder in the Windows folder in Windows folder for the Windows Server 2019 or Windows 10 has specific permissions who can access the Windows folder, okay, and to access the objects, I think. So let's see what this recommendation says, because I think here it need to see a more explanation for this kind of thing. What is the default permissions of global system objects? Let's continue and see. So let's go and see the group policy and what is a global object, okay. So it's saying that strengthen default permissions of internal system objects, symbolic links, okay. So let's see also what is Windows. Let's see here what is Windows global objects. Okay, let's see here. Is saying here what is a global object. Okay, create global objects. A global object is an object that is created to be used by a number of processes or threads, even those not started within the user session. Remote desktop services uses global objects in its process to facilitate connections and accesses. So a global object is an object created to be used by a number of processes or programs in the machine, okay. So this is what we mean by global object. So saying that creating or accessing these global objects should be limited to certain users. I think he is what he is talking about here, okay. So this is the thing, user rights, okay, this is it. So let's see also the explanation of this group policy. Strengthen default permission of internal system objects, okay. So let's see about also this group policy. When we see it in our local group policy, let's see an explanation of something like this. So let's go and see this. Let's open it and let's open Windows setting, and then we need to go to security, and then to go local policy, and then go security options, and then system cryptic, not this one, strengthen this one, okay. Explanation, okay. He's saying there Active Directory maintains a global list of shared system resources such as so and so and so, which object actually are shared among processes. So he's saying that these are the permissions, okay, on objects in the Active Directory, okay. Maybe this object, he's saying maybe device names, mutexes, and semaphores. I don't know what is mutex or semaphores, but it is related to the permissions on the objects in the Active Directory. He will strengthen them. Okay, so the default, if the policy is enabled, the default DCACL is stronger, allowing users who are not administrators to read shared objects, but do not allowing these users to modify this shared object that they did not create. So it will strengthen the security on the objects in the Active Directory. I think object is meaning a user or a computer or a group. Okay, so he will only let or non-administrators, users in the Active Directory, can read these objects. Okay, read, I mean they can see it, but they cannot change it unless they have created it. Anyway, so this is enabled by default in my local security policy, so we can enable it without any hesitation. So this is for the Active Directory and for the Windows. Okay, he's talking about objects. By the way, objects in the Active Directory are Active Directory user or computer or group. Windows system object, it is a user, local user or local group. So he's saying here we strengthen the permissions on these objects. Okay, so, and symbolic links, by the way, symbolic links, it is a way to create or to tell the Windows about allocation, okay, that it is not real. Let me show you something like a shortcut. For example, if you have your C partition, okay, and the space in your C partition is not or it is filled at the most, and you don't have any other space to fill the C, but you have your D partition, you have a lot of space, you can take a part of the D partition and let the Windows add it to the C partition, and it acts as this space is from the C, not from the D. So you can take a part of the D partition and put it to the C partition, or add it to the C partition, and the Windows will see this new space as a part of the partition C, not D. Okay, so this is called symbolic links. Okay, so it's saying here that symbolic links, something like a shortcut. So it's saying access to this symbolic link, so this space will be called, or the link or the adding of this space to the C partition will be added through something called a link. Okay, so access to this link should be strengthened. Or what is the symbolic link? Let me show you what also is a symbolic link. Let's symbolic Windows symbolic link. Okay, virtual files or folders which reference a physical file or a folder located elsewhere. As I said before, you have, for example, a space on D partition, you need to add it, okay, to the C partition, and the Windows will see this space as it is in the C, not in the D. So this is a virtual file or folder which reference a physical file or folder located elsewhere. Okay, so this is one of the things to use it. Okay, so let's continue with working with the recommendations. So we will strengthen the global object security. Okay, then talking about user account control approval mode for built-in administrator must be enabled. User account control, it is a security mechanism for limiting the elevation of privileges. Okay, we have talked about elevation of privileges before. If a user doesn't have the right, for example, to install a software, the user account control will pop up and ask him to give him a username and password that have the right to install software. This is called elevation of privileges. Okay, so saying that user account control will be enabled for built-in local administrators on all of your servers and workstations. This user account control will pop up a message saying to you that you are running a certain software, okay, or this software are run using administrator privileges. Okay, he will give you a warning or something like a message saying that you will run this software. This is used by the user account control. So every time you run a program with your local administrator username, he will pop up a message saying that should I run this program or not? This is from the user account control. So it's saying that we need to enable this kind of option for the local administrators. By the way, I have disabled this option because it does a lot of problems. Okay, so he's saying here that the user account control approval mode for the built-in administrator must be enabled. Okay, so this setting configures the built-in administrator account so it runs in admin approval mode. The admin approval mode, as I said before, it will ask you, or it will give you a message every time you run a program. It will ask you if you can let him run the program or not. What is admin approval mode? Let's see here. It is, what is Windows admin, what is user account access control admin control mode, admin approval mode, sorry, approval mode. The local administrator account functions like a standard user account, but it has the ability to elevate privileges without logging on by using different accounts. So the local administrator functions like a standard user account, but it has the ability to elevate privileges without logging on by using a different account. So I think this is one of the things. What is admin approval mode? Authority conferred to broad chain. Anyway, so I remember I have said this before. Admin, what is admin approval? Turn off administrator prompts. Yes, this is administrator prompts. I know. Actually, let me show you all what is admin approval mode here in the images. So the admin approval mode. So admin approval mode. This is the admin approval mode. I think this is the admin approval mode. Let me show you all. This is okay. This is the admin approval mode. So it gives you this one, admin approval mode. This is the one. Anytime you run a program that or a software or a folder that needs administrator access, okay, he will let you or will give you a message saying that this folder should be run by administrator. So can I continue? Okay, of course, if you are the administrator, you will press continue and it will open the folder or open the software. But if you are not an admin, he will block you. Okay, so this is the admin approval mode. Okay, so let's continue and see all the other recommendations. So let's continue. So this is not available for the Windows Server 2019 core because I don't have a graphical interface. So this is related to Windows graphical interface. You will not see this option in the Windows core or Windows Server core, the one that you are using in our lab. Okay, so you are none available for server core installations. Okay, so I don't have this option on my server core. If you are using server core in your environment, this will not be effective. Okay. So let's see here with admin approval mode. And by the way, let me show you all something here, guys. In my default domain policy, let me show you all the UEC, how I configure it in my real environment. Okay, let me show you all something here. It is the collection, and let's go to final, and then let's go to total inventory, and I'll show you all my real or what I work with in my domain environment or production environment. Let me show you all the part concerning this. Is my default domain policy. It applies to all of my servers and workstations. So let me show you all the accounts, domain members, and user access control. Let me show you all network security policy, user access control. So let's see here, the one called admin approval mode, I have disabled it. Okay, so I disable it in my production environment. This is one thing or a best practice or what I use in my environment. Okay, because this does a lot of problems with some software. Okay, so this is disabled. Okay, so let's continue with our lab. Okay, or let me leave this and sorry guys, let me go and close this one because I have something in my RAM anyway. So let's close this one also and let's continue. So the admin approval mode, we should disable it. In real life, of course, he is saying that UI access application must not be allowed to prompt it for elevation without using the secure desktop. What we mean here by secure desktop, when a user try to install software and he is not authorized to do this, the user account control will pop up a message saying to him, please provide me a username and a password that has the right to install an application. Okay, when doing this, your desktop is dimmed. You cannot use your desktop, or something called secure desktop. Okay, so you cannot do anything, you do not do anything until you give him a username and password to install the application. Okay, if you tell him cancel, okay, you will return back to the desktop, but during the pop-up of the user account control window, your desktop is dimmed, you cannot use it. Okay, it is security mechanism, as I said before, including administrative privileges. This is to prevent user interface accessibility programs from disabling the secure desktop for elevation prompts. Anyway, must not be allowed to prompt it for elevation without using secure desktop. Okay, this is what we mean by, I said before, secure desktop. It will damp the desktop, you will not, or it will close the access to your desktop unless you give him an action. Okay, so this is what we mean by secure desktop. So UI access applications, okay, prompted for elevation without using secure desktop, it will be disabled. You should without using secure desktop, you should enable the secure desktop. Okay, then the next recommendation, user account control must at minimum prompt administrator for consistent on secure desktop. Okay, this is also something, or consistent on secure desktop, when you run software or a program. Okay, the user account control will pop up a message saying that this program needs to be run, so I run it. Okay, something like, let me show what is consistent on secure desktop. Let me show you the message. Okay, contest, just a moment. So what is concept on secure desktop? Okay, this is what we mean by secure. This is the one. Okay, so anytime you run a program, this is what we call consist on secure desktop. Okay, this is, it will give you a message every time you run a program. As an administrator, he will give you this message. This is what we mean consist on secure desktop. Okay, so this is what we mean by, this is for the administrator, by the way. If the user is not an administrator, he will pop up a message asking to provide the username and the password. This is only will be for the administrator. Okay, so we need also to disable this one. Let me show you all. If I have it in my domain group policy, let me open again and see if I have this configured in my production environment. Let me show you all what is this one. So I go to the final, and then we go to the total inventory, and then Active Directory, and then group GPO, and the default domain policy. Let's go and see if I have this one enabled, because some group policies do some damage or not effective in real environment, not virtual environment. So let's see here, for example, what we have here. Okay, behavior of elevation prompt for administrators in admin approval mode. I think it's prompt for consistent for non-Windows binary. No, not this one. Let's see here. Let's see this. What is this group policy? Okay, let me show you all how I have configured it. So also this is not available on core. So here, this is the group policy. Behavior of elevation prompt for administrators in admin approval mode. So prompt for consistent on secure desktop. Let's see here. Behavior of elevation prompt. Behavior for elevation prompt. Yes, behavior for elevation profile admin approval mode prompt for consistent for non-Windows binary. Okay, so it's different than the one provided by the Department of Defense. Okay, this is different. Okay, so I have different setting here. Prompt for consistent for non-Windows binary. Non-Windows binary here means that he will give you a message asking that this program you will run it for non-Windows files. Okay, not Windows files. Okay, so I think this is one of the things. Anyway, so this is a thing also to take into consideration. Let me see what is the explanation of this group policy. If we go there and open the GP edit and open this one, and let me open the Windows setting and then go to security, and we need to see the explanation of this one, local policy, and then security options, and then go to UAC or user account control. Behavior, yes, prompt for consistent with non-Windows binary. Okay, this is the one that we are working with. So here we say, let me see, elevate without prompting allows privileged accounts to perform an operation that requires elevation without requiring consistent or credentials. Okay, so you will be elevated automatically. Okay, prompt for credentials on secure desktop, so you will be prompted and the desktop will be damped. Prompt on a secure desktop, when an operation requires elevation of privileges, the user is prompted on the secure desktop to select either permit or deny. Okay, this is the one. If the user selects permit, the operation continues with the highest privileges. Okay, prompt for credentials when, yes, this is no. Prompt for consistent. Okay, prompt consistent for non-binary. When an operation of a non-Microsoft application requires elevation of a privileges, the user is prompted on the secure desktop to select either permit or deny. If the user selects permit, the operation continues with the user's highest available privileges. So this is very, very good. We have known how we can work with this one. So this prompt will only be for the non-Windows files or non-Windows application. Okay, this one, it will prompt every time for every file in the Windows. I think this is not good and it will do a lot of problems. Okay, so let's continue with the other recommendations. So let's continue. Okay, consistent with on secure desktop. Okay, the more secure setting is prompt for credentials on secure desktop will be acceptable. So every time you need to run a program, okay, it will prompt for credentials. But no, this is not good, because every time you are an administrator, you need every time to put your password. This is not acceptable as all. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue working. Then user account control must automatically deny standard user request for elevation. So this is something, okay, if a standard user try to run a program, so trying to install a program, and he doesn't have the right to install the program, I am a standard user, I am not authorized to install application. If I try to do this, the user account controller will pop up a screen asking the standard user to provide another user account that have the privileges to install the software. Okay, we need to disable this kind of process completely. Okay, this will not, or not this, it will deny, it will not give him the option to put a username and password. It will deny him completely. So it will not give him the option to provide a username or password. It will deny him automatically. So if I try to install a software, I will not be given a screen to provide a username or a password, but it will tell him you are denied. It will not give him the elevation screen to put a username or password. Okay, so this is what we mean by deny standard user requests for elevation. So the user or the standard user will not be given the elevation screen, or will not give him a screen or a window to provide a username and password that have the rights to install software. Okay, so this is what we mean by deny standard user request for elevation. Okay, and also this is not available, the UAC, it's not available as a whole on the server core operating systems. Okay, so let's see also here my default domain policy for the standard users. I think I need to leave this group policy. Let me open the default group policy that I have in my production environment, tools, and then final, and then total inventory, and then active directory, and then group, and then default domain policy. Sorry, I'm opening it a bit more frequent. I will leave it, but let me see what is my default domain policy. User access control. So here, let me see, standard. Here, behavior of elevation prompt for standard users prompt from credentials. I think this is not correct. Okay, we need to disable it. Okay, no, we don't need this one. This is not a good recommendation. It's in my production environment, but this is not good. Okay, we need to do what the Department of Defense says, especially in this one. Some recommendations are not practical or are not it will do damages in my environment, but this one I prefer to do what the Department of Defense says. Automatically deny elevation request. Anyway, then go to the other recommendation. User account control must be configured to detect application installations and prompt for elevation. This is completely different than the other one. To detect application installation prompt for elevation. No, I think we need to disable this one. I don't know how this is completely different than the previous one. So I think this will be done for maybe the administrator, but this is also not. Let's see here. The setting require Windows to respond to an application installation request by prompting for credentials. I think this should be disabled. Okay. Let me see here what he mean by this. So if we go, I need to see the explanation of this kind. Just wait a moment, guys. Let me see the explanation of this group policy, because I think it's different, or there is something here not clear, because this is the opposite what we have done in the previous group policy. If we go there and open the security, then local policy, security options, and then user account control, detect application, it is enabled. Let's see here explanation. When an application installation package is detected that requires elevation of privileges, the user is prompted to enter an administrative username or password. If the user enter valid credentials, operation continues with are not detected and prompt to elevation. Enterprises that are running standard user desktops and use delegation installation technologies such as a group policy software installation should disable this policy setting in case installer detection is unnecessary. So I think this is more to be disabled, okay, not enabled, okay, because we will install software to the PC of a user or a standard user using a group policy or other software. So I think this should be disabled, not enabled, okay, in a production environment. Let's see how I do this in my default domain policy. Default domain policy says detect application and prompt for elevation enabled. No, I think this should be disabled also. Anyway, so we will continue working. I think this should be disabled. Should test this setting and see it in your production environment. Let's continue, and then the next recommendation: user account control must only elevate applications that are installed in secure locations. So he's saying that there is some programs in some folders in the Windows that will run without prompting for permit or deny for the administrator or the local administrator or the standard users. What are these folders? the folder of Windows or folder system32. Okay, so he is saying that this setting configure Windows to only allow applications installed in a secure location on the file system, such as the program files or the Windows, to run with elevated privileges. So he's saying here that programs in the C or the folder of Windows or folder of 32 or system32 folder will run with administrative privileges for standard users and local administrators automatically. Okay, this is very clear because some programs, for example like the Notepad and some other programs, should run should run with administrator privileges, or it is to run with highest privileges. This will be done automatically for the standard users. So programs in the C Windows folder or C Windows System32 folder will run with elevated privileges or with administrative privileges for the standard users and the local administrators automatically. Okay, automatically, and the user account control will not ask to permit or deny. It will run automatically and it is allowed. Okay, this is called the secure location. Okay, so this is also good. Let me see also this recommendation in my default domain policy. Yes, this is enabled, so this is in line with what the Department of Defense says. So let's continue. Also program files. Okay, so program files also will run without user account control asking to permit or deny, and it will run with administrative privileges for standard users. Okay, so that's good. Then he is saying the other recommendation, that user account control must run all administrators in admin approval mode, enabling UAC unless the setting enables UAC. So he's saying that user account control will be enabled for all local administrators on the machine. Okay, and it will be in admin approval mode. Admin approval mode, it means the user account control will give you a message to permit or deny running of programs. Okay, so he's saying that in very simple terms, it will enable user account control to all local administrators in the machine or the server, and it will run in admin approval mode. Okay, so this is one thing. I think this should be disabled because, as I said before, it will do a lot of problems in the domain. So you can see here, for example, run all administrators in admin approval mode is disabled. Okay, so this is different because I think it will do a lot of damage. You will see that some programs like the McAfee or some things, this kind of thing will block, or it will not make it more productive. It will make programs, it will make problems. Okay, so this is one of the things. Let me see how much time we have. We have 42 minutes. Okay, so I think we have maybe 10 minutes later. So let's continue. This is the mechanism to enable admin approval mode. Okay, it is disabled by default, by the way. So it is disabled by default by Windows, but you need to enable it. So it is disabled. The Windows recommend you to disable this option, or the default value is disabled. Okay, let's see here. This recommendation must virtualize file and registry write failures to pre-user locations. Let's see this one. This setting configures non-UAC compliant applications to run a virtualized file and registry entries in per user locations, allowing them to run. So some programs, as I said before, for example the McAfee or some programs is not in compliance with the UAC mechanism. So some programs cannot deal with the user account control mechanism. Okay, they have some problems with it. So these programs, the user account control, or it's not compliant with the user account control. So these programs will run even though they are not compliant with the UAC. It will run without any problems, but in a virtualized file and registry. Virtualized means it's not real. It virtualized, it is in a controlled environment or in a controlled virtualized environment. So if any problem happens, it will not affect the system because it's in a virtualized file and registry entries per user location, allowing them to run. Okay, so let me see also the explanation of this group policy. If we go there and open run and then open GP edit and open the Windows setting and then open security setting and then local policies and then security options, and then let's see the user account control, virtualize. Let's see the explanation here. Okay, he's saying that this policy set control whether applications write failures are redirected to defined registry and system location. This policy setting meditates applications that run as administrator and write runtime applications to whatsoever. I don't think this is more clear. The other one is more clear in the Department of Defense PDF. So here this is more convenient or more explanatory. Okay, so this is more clear. Okay, so we need to enable it. Virtualize and then tell him to enable this setting, applying the OK, and then let's continue. You must preserve zone information when saving attachments. So there is a mechanism in Windows that it marks the file with the location this file came from. For example, it's from the internet, from your intranet, from your local environment, or it is from restricted environment. Okay, information file attached allow Windows to determine the risk. Okay, it mark file attachments with their zone information. So this is the default behavior. It is, I think, enabled by default. So if you have a file, save it from the internet, it will be marked as internet zone. It is a file from the intranet, it will be marked as intranet zone. So this is a good thing, so the Windows can know the location of the file. Okay, so it marks the location of the file in its information. Okay, do not preserve. This should be not configured or disabled, and it by default not configured. It means it is active and running. So go to administrative templates, and then we need to go to Windows system. Okay, attachments, and then it is not configured, so you can leave it not configured or disabled. So this is a thing to do, disabled. Okay, and then applying the OK. So let's continue. Okay, access credential manager as a trusted caller user right must not be assigned to any group or account. So the credential manager, it is an option in the Windows where users and passwords, user names and password are saved and they are encrypted. Okay, this is something like the SAM. Okay, we have to talk about something like this, but credential manager is more powerful. It saves your Windows usernames and password with in it, and it is encrypted, something called the vault. Okay, so this right or this group policy gives a certain user the right to access the credential manager or any PC or any Windows 10 operating system and see the username and password in it. Okay, this is very, very critical. This should only be assigned to the local administrators on the machines. Okay, so this should not be assigned, he's saying, to any group or account, but I think this can be done for the let me see, for the local administrators. Let's see how I do this in my production environment. So we will go and see access credential manager. This is local policy user right assignments. Let me see if I have this done in my default domain policy user right assignment. I think this is up here, user right assignment. So this is the user right assignments. So where is the part that have local? Okay, deny, impersonate, generate, something like what is the right? saying access UI. Let me see here. Access from network, access deny from computer, impersonate, including security remove. No, I think security options maybe. Let me see this. Where is this right? Impersonate, generate, deny, access computer. Okay, let's see where is this right. Let's see how we will get it. Let's see. It will go from security setting, I think maybe. It is in local policy. Okay, the user right assignment, so it is in local policy. Let's see where we can get it from. Local policy, and then local policies, user right assignments, access credential manager as a trusted. Let's see here. Access credential manager. Okay, here this is, I don't have it actually. This is very thing here. Okay, so I don't see it here. Access credential manager, yes, no, this is access only, so I cannot see it here. So it's not assigned to anyone. Okay, so let me see it in my local group policy, because I think there is a problem here. We go to the user right, and then yes, this one, it's not assigned to any user. Okay, this is the default setting. This is the local group policy. Okay, and this is also in the domain. We should not assign this to any user. Okay, so if you go there and see this explanation, using the setting used by credential manager during backup or restore, no account should have this privilege, as it is only assigned to when login. Okay, user saved credential might be compromised if this privilege is given to other users. Okay, so we'll not give it to any user, even the local administrators. Okay, this is very strange. Anyway, so we will do this. Okay, it's not defined, so he's saying here not defined or blank. I think he's saying that we can leave it as not defined. Can go up. Okay, access credential manager trusted. Okay, we can tell him yes, and then click on it, and then leave it. Okay, to be defined but blank. Okay, this is the default, and this is we have in our local group policy. This will be done to the group policy of the domain. Act as a part of the operating system. User right must not be assigned to any group or account. This is very critical, because the user that have this right or this privilege will act as the operating system. He will have highest privileges. So he's saying act as a part of the operating system, can assume the identity of any user and gain access to resources that the user is authorized to access. Any account this right can take complete control of the system. So I think this is also we need to not give it to any user. Let me see how much time we have. So I think this will be the last one, and we will stop here. So let's see. Act as a part of the operating system. Let's go and see what is assigned for. It should be left as blank. Okay, be left as blank. Let me see what is my default domain policy done for this one. Let me act as a part of the operating system. So act as a part, let's see, act as a part of the operating system. Also I think this is not done. Okay, or this is not assigned to anyone. Let me see also this in my local group policy. Production, I have production group policy and the local group policy. Let's go and see this one. So if you open it, and then open Windows setting, and then security, and then local, and then user rights assignment, act as a part of the list, it's also blank. This is the default setting. I didn't do anything to it. So let's go and do this one. So we'll do this and apply and OK. Okay, and we will stop at this recommendation at the minute 35:39. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much. This is 35:39. Okay, so let's stop.